What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Identity 5 YouTube video. And I'm sorry that I didn't do my hair and look all nice, whatever. It's kind of like winter and it's cold out. I don't really feel like doing anything because it's cold. It doesn't make any sense, but whatever. Anyways, guys, I know it's been a while since I posted my last video. I apologize for that, but today we have a pretty big one. Season 13 Survivor tier list. And I know if you've been asking for this, so I'm like, yeah, we're doing it. Let's go. I have my sleeves rolled up because it's cold, so just don't mind that. Anyways, yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first survivor, so we're gonna go like this. I'm gonna have a D, C, B, A minus, A, and S tier. We'll just go ahead and start off with the D tier. The first survivor in D tier, and unfortunately the worst survivor in the game, as all of you may know, is Lucky Guy. And the problem with Lucky Guy, he's kind of just the default starter character or whatever, but he's never really been good, and that's mainly because he doesn't really have any special ability other than an increased chance of getting something out of a chest that he wants. And the time it takes for you to go search a chest, it's time that you could be decoding and cipher rushing, and it kind of puts your team in a bad position. So, based off of that, Lucky Guy is a C tier or a D tier survivor, and the worst in the game. I mean, again, he doesn't really have any special abilities. Even if he gets a flare gun or something out of a chest, his flare gun stun time is a lot less than Coordinator's, so it's not as strong, and that is what makes him a D tier survivor. The next survivor in D tier is Embalmer. Yes, I'm sorry for you Aesop fans. I know, I like him as well. Unfortunately, he's just not a very good survivor in the high tiers. And the reason for this is that he gets countered by simply teleporting. Any hunter that has good map presence, any hunter that can teleport, good map presence hunters being Dream Witch, Wu Chang, Bloody Queen, and those are all the three most common hunters we see. So that the only hunter he would be strong against in particular is probably something like Bonbon, because you don't have to go for a save against them, and Bonbon is really good camp. But most Bonbons are running teleport nowadays anyway, so it really kind of just nullifies that effect altogether. So, overall, Embalmer could technically save a game. You put the coffin by the door, but a smart hunter in top tiers will just slug the survivor, leave them on the ground, and they won't share them, so that coffin won't be able to activate. It's so easy to play around Embalmer's coffin. You can just leave the survivor on the ground. I mean, it's that simple. They self-heal, you knock them down again, and then they no longer have self-heal, and they're stuck on the ground until they bleed out, essentially. So, and I know some of you would be like, oh my god, that's toxic to let them bleed out, that's so toxic. But it's not. It's just simply how you beat Embalmer. His one ability is simply just easily countered, and on top of that, you have to actually see the survivors, and then go back to your coffin, put them on the coffin, and blah, blah, blah. It just takes up so much time. You could be decoding. It's just a lot of work. It really just does not work out, especially against hunters like Wu Chang, Bloody Queen, Dream Witch that can get around the map very quickly and catch up to you like that. So that just makes Embalmer a D tier survivor. The next survivor in D tier and the last survivor in D tier is Wildling. Now, I would like to point out, guys, this is all mobile. This is a mobile tier list, essentially. So everything on PC, this might be different on PC. I know Wildling's a pretty decent survivor on PC. But on mobile, he's not. And mainly the reason for this is Wildling is the most anti-Cypher Rush character. Like, you're giving the hunter free prevention of Cypher Rush. Like it's that bad. Because Wildling, this is what Wildling does, okay? This is how you play Wildling. You decode a Cypher until someone gets hit, and then you get on your board and go find them. Or go find them, get on your board, whatever. And that's, and the Wildling decode's so slow, maybe you do I don't know, 20% of a Cypher. Even if you rotate properly, do 30%, it's just not enough. So then you can go find the survivor and try to harass and buy time and whatever, but it really just does not work. It's just one survivor not decoding. So you essentially have 4 survivors. You should have 3 decoding while someone's kiting. But the problem is, while Wildling's harassing, that's only 2 people decoding, and the cipher. If someone were to 3 cipher kite, it would only be 2, and essentially it's going to be a tie. Right? So you could kite 120 seconds essentially as an opening kiter, and you're probably going to tie the match if you have a Wildling. If you have a mechanic, it may be a different story, but if you don't have a decoder and you have a Wildling on the team, you will tie the match. Wildling literally just allows the hunter to have anti-Cypher Rush. Now, he's a pretty good rescuer. He can go for saves, no problem. He can get close to the chair without getting hit because he's got his boar. He just decodes so slow. He's a good harasser for the most part, but he's easier to play around than something like Forward. So that is the downside to Wildling, and that is why he is a D tier survivor. The next survivor in, moving on to the next tier, this is C tier. And the first survivor in C tier is Thief. Not much to say about Thief. He's got good vaulting speed. He searches chests fast. That doesn't essentially matter too much, technically. And he's good against hunters with small hitboxes. You know, he's good against something like Violinist. You can blind the Violinist, force them back. He's good in open areas because you can just kind of keep running and flashlighting them. He's good against Ripper because you can easily just dodge the Foggy Blade. He's good against very strong against Geisha. Actually, one of the hardest counters in the game to Geisha. But other than that, I mean, Ripper, Violinist, Geisha. Out of those three, the only hunter that you see a lot of is Violinist. There isn't too much Ripper, and there's almost no Geisha. So, there's probably some other hunters he's not bad against I'm not thinking of. But for the most part, Thief really doesn't do a whole lot for the team. There's just a lot better containment type characters. So that is why Thief is a C tier survivor. There's not much to say there. Moving on to the next survivor in C tier, that is Explorer. Actually, you know, Explorer might be a little bit better than I have him here. But this is kind of always where he's been, so I'm just kind of going with this. I don't really play Explorer, so I don't know, obviously. But Explorer is very good for like hiding. He's a really good hiding character. You can buy a lot of the hunter's time that way. You know, like early game, if a hunter were to go to, you know, a lot of top hunters memorize spawn locations, so they'll go to an area, they'll get tinnitus, and they'll look around, and the Explorer can buy a lot of time. So that's, you know, that's not bad, right? Additionally, he's good against, you know, he's good with kind of mind gaming the hunter. You know, they think, oh, maybe I have 2 ciphers left, 3 ciphers left. You can instantly pop a cipher and just be back in the game like that, and it totally messes up the hunter's like thought process, right? He's also good against something like Photographer because you can instantly finish cipher machines. Before the photo world ends. But other than that, he doesn't do a whole lot. He's not a great container. He can hide well, but that's not too big of a deal. The hunter will just change targets or whatever. But he's fun to play with. He's actually not bad. Like I said, he can hide from the hunter. He can mess up the hunters. You can mind game the hunter with the password pages. And he's not a bad survivor, but I do have him in C tier. The next survivor in C tier is Gardener, and this is another survivor that might actually be a little bit higher. So this is really interesting. So there was a tournament that happened in, I believe, Southeast Asia last week, something like that. And there was some Gardener. There were some Gardener players. And you actually see this in Asia a little bit. Some people do play Gardener as a containment type character. And the reason for this is the meta in Asia is similar to ours, but you see, you know, here you see like a lot of Wu Chang, you know, you see a lot of Dream Witch for Dream Witch Expand. So you see a lot of Wu Chang, you see a lot of Bloody Queen, which is what they see there, but they see a lot of Bloody Queen there, like a lot. And Gardener is actually really good against Bloody Queen, believe it or not. If you have that bubble and you get found first against a Bloody Queen, you literally just make her waste an entire mirror to kill her bubble, basically. And it really doesn't do anything because Bloody Queen doesn't gain anything that much, doesn't really gain anything from getting presents. This is the same against Dream Witch as well. This forces them to, like, you know, either wait off the bubble or like hit into it, and then get 3 hits, which is actually very strong. So it's a pretty good containment type. You actually see a lot of Gardeners just trying to drop their toolbox early on in the game. They'll pretty much just they'll go search a chest, drop the toolbox, and go, you know, keep going out throughout the game with a different tool. But that bubble at the beginning of the game isn't bad. I mean, the ability to take a hit against something like Wu Chang, it might not be as strong because Wu Chang just gets free presents, and then they get the second hit, and they use the bell to get the 3rd hit almost instantly after. You know, if they're in Black Form, because Black Form is so strong for Wu Chang. And we're going to talk about that in Season 1300 tier list, which is soon, but we're not talking about that now. So that's basically why Gardener's pretty good. She's strong against Bloody Queen and Dream Witch, but I do unfortunately have her in C tier, at least for our meta. We do see a lot of Wu Chang and NAEU, so... moving on to the next hunter, or the next survivor in C tier, this is Dancer. Female Dancer has never really been a good survivor, even with the buff. She's just very weak. I've never really thought Dancer's good. I've never played Dancer. I've never been a fan of Dancer. Actually, I strongly dislike her. I don't think she's a very good survivor at all. But I do have to give her a little bit of credit, so she is in C tier. She can tight kite some hunters, but the problem is the meta right now is so anti-tight kite. Like a Bloody Queen will just mirror you, and your slow box does nothing, or a fast box, whatever you happen to put down. Or a Dream Witch will just trap you, or a Wu Chang will just build it. She might be decent against Wu Chang early game, but that's pretty much it. But any other, you know, fast hunter, Bon doesn't work, Feaster doesn't work. It won't work because you just get tentacled, you get bomb hit. Spider will just zoom fast. Your slow boxes, they just don't work, unfortunately. And that is the downside to Dancer. The fast boxes can help, speed up your decoding speed, but it's really not that big of a deal. I'd rather just play a decoding character and simply just decode faster. So that is why Dancer is a C. Not much to say. Dancer is just simply a C tier survivor based off of that. Moving on to the last survivor in C tier. I was kind of close to putting the survivor in B tier, but unfortunately she's not very good, and that is the Mind's Eye. The Mind's Eye is a very fast decoder, in fact the fastest in the game. However, we all know the problem with her is that she's just not a very good container whatsoever. She got very, very slow vaulting speed, and if the hunter finds her, good hunters will listen for that tap in the early game when she taps the cane, and they'll just like go to that. They'll literally they get that in their mind. They can tell where it is on the map, and they'll just go in that direction, and they'll be able to find the Mind's Eye that way. And she's not a very good containment type. If the Mind's Eye doesn't get found and someone else gets found, that's very good for the team. The Mind's Eye can zoom through cipher machines very fast, but a lot of hunters will literally just leave everybody until they find Mind's Eye. It's that easy. And Mind's Eye is forced to rotate so much to avoid the hunter that she's just not decoding for so much of the game that it's almost not even worth it to have that decoding bonus. So that is the downside to Mind's Eye, and unfortunately why she is a C tier survivor. Moving on to the next tier, this is going to be B tier. We're going to go through these ones pretty quickly. There's not much to say about these, but they are B tier, and I'll explain why. And the first is Lawyer, okay? A lot of you guys are probably like, oh my god, Lawyer sucks, why isn't he in D tier? Well, Lawyer is actually not a bad survivor in 4-person communication, because Lawyer can actually see where the hunter is throughout most of the match, until the map runs out. But throughout most of the match, the Lawyer can actually see where the hunter is at all times by just using that map to see the hunter's location. And this is really important, because if you're in 4-person VC, for those of you who don't know what rotating is, it's where the hunter goes in. Basically, the hunter goes towards somewhere on the map, and then you as a survivor will leave that early and get ahead of them. That way you don't have to kite. And you just kind of keep doing a circle or hiding. You go off and hide, or you do a circle around the map, and the hunter will never, essentially catch up to you. And you leave your cipher machines early if the hunter's headed towards that direction, and they will never find you. The hunter just never really finds anyone. And that's kind of the ideal if you're in 4-person communication. The Lawyer can constantly be like, oh, I'm going to check my map. Oh my god, the hunter's going there. And then you're going to tell your person, they're going to leave, and the hunter will never find them. And this is good against slow hunters like Violinist, Feaster, slow hunters. Yay. Yeah. Okay, and that's why Lawyer is a B tier survivor. Next survivor in B tier is Magician. Magician is, he's one of those survivors that, what do we call it? High risk, high reward, something like that. Yeah, that's what Magician is. The chances of you getting terror shocked are actually kind of high, unfortunately, with Magician. But that is why you do see a lot of Magicians take the first hit and then the illusion later. And that's kind of a downside, because you really want to be full health at later points in the game, so maybe you go for rescues or whatever. Or you get umbrellaed on by Wu Chang or whatever it happens to be. So that's why you see a lot of like good containment type or good rescue types that can buy the hunter's time. They use their abilities before they get the first hit on them. And Magician, it's very risky to do that because you risk getting terror shocked. And if you get terror shocked, you're in a really bad spot. On top of that, Magician has a very, very long time to be rescued. It's 60%, I believe. It takes 60% more time to be rescued than any other survivor. So again, especially with the meta right now, where we have a lot of campy hunters, it's very, very hard to rescue a Magician. And that is just simply the downside to Magician. If you didn't have that rescue time, you might actually be an A- tier survivor where those illusions aren't bad. Sometimes you can even lose the hunter. Good hunters will follow your trail, but sometimes you can lose the hunter. But yeah, for the most part, because of that rescue time in particular, he is a B tier survivor. Moving on to the next survivor in B tier, this is Doctor. Now, Doctor used to be pretty bad. She did get a buff sometime last season. I don't pay attention. You guys know me. I don't pay attention to anything. I'm clueless, so I don't know. But Doctor did get a buff where she heals a quarter of the way first instead of the full like half amount. So she can kite a little bit better. She can get hit, heal that quarter amount, and then get hit again. And then, she'll be like 3/4 of the way dead. So the hunter will have to hit her again to get the down. Now, this isn't very good against something like Bon, obviously, because you can just bomb him. But for the most part, Doctor isn't bad. She's very strong against Photographer because you can heal off that extra, quarter damage that he does or whatever it is. And you can heal off the damage that he does in Photo World, where it makes it so they're like you know, 37.5% dead or whatever it is, and then they become one shot in the real world because of math. Yay, do math. What's half of 75? 37.5. There we go. None of you probably have any idea what I'm saying right now. I don't either, but it's okay. But yeah, Doctor can heal off that damage that the photographer does in Photo World, so that's very strong. But besides that, Doctor isn't too strong. She does get a veteran's bonus when she's hit, so she sometimes, you know, get ahead from the, get ahead of the hunter. She's more of a containment type than a support because of that buff, but she still is very strong support. So, anyways, she's just kind of okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, she's meh. So that's why she's a B tier survivor. Yeah. Anyways, next survivor in B tier is Postman. Yeah, Postman. Yay, we love Postman. Victor. Postman used to be really bad. You know, he used to give letters to people that did absolutely nothing productive whatsoever. Even though you're like, oh my god, 10% vaulting increase. Oh my god, 10% decoding. It really does nothing. I don't. It doesn't feel like it does anything. In reality, it doesn't help out a whole lot. So, but now Postman actually is a decent containment type character. Wow. He has the dog that you can put on the hunter. It slows them down, and you can transition. The hunter's gonna catch up to you. Put the dog on put the dog on the hunter. Transition to the next pallet or window or whatever, and you're chilling. And the hunter gets super slow. So it's actually not a bad ability. The sending letters is still kind of meh. But the reason why he's high B tier is because he does have that dog to slow down the hunter. It makes him a pretty good containment type survivor. Less of support, more containment time now. The last survivor in B tier is Entomologist. Not much to say about Entomologist. Her bees can block off pathways and slow down the hunter. That's pretty good. Postman's dog is probably better, to be honest. But she can also use her bees to annoy the hunter. It's pretty annoying. It doesn't do a whole lot, but it actually has. I've seen it save games before. It can help survivors go for save against like something like a Bon in the late game, or a good camping hunter, or if, you know, it's a survivor in basement. So Entomologist isn't a bad containment type and isn't a bad support. Again, overall, she's just sort of, you know, meh containment, meh support, not great. But that is why she's a B tier survivor. Simple as that. Okay, moving on to the next tier. We have the last three, A-, A, and S. The next is A- tier. And the first survivor in A- tier is Barmaid. Barmaid is probably the least played, or actually, if you look at character knowledge, Barmaid's one of the least played survivors in North American European server, you know, other than like Embalmer, Lucky Guy, and Wildling, and Thief, and Lawyer. If you exclude those, something like that. Barmaid's one of the least sorry, let me rephrase this. Out of the high tier survivors, Barmaid's the least played out of the higher tier survivors, which is interesting because if you go and look at, like, you know, China and the Asia servers, they actually utilize Barmaid quite a bit, and the reason for that is Barmaid is pretty strong against 2 hunters in particular. That is Dream Witch and Bloody Queen, and those are the two most popular hunters you see over in Asia right now. Over here again, we see a lot of Wu Chang, we see a lot of Bon, stuff like that. We see a lot of Sculptor, and Bon and Sculptor can both cancel her drink with their bomb or statues, so that is why Barmaid's not too big here in North American European servers, but she's very good against Dream Witch, and the reason for that is Dream Witch will hit you. Say they like patroller you, they hit you, you do your drink, and they cannot get you down in 20 seconds. I mean, they're not gonna be able to get another patroller and another hit in 20 seconds. If they blink you, maybe, but it's still unlikely. You can usually kite it out, and it forces the Dream Witch to hit you 3 times, so that's pretty strong. Also, Dream Witch injures. The goal of Dream Witch is to injure a lot of survivors throughout the map. That's why Doctor is very strong against her, but Barmaid in particular as well, because you can just give someone a drink and go back to decoding and keep up that Cypher Rush. So, on top of that, she's good against Bloody Queen, because Bloody Queen will mirror you. You take a hit, use your drink, and Bloody Queen's usually doesn't have her mirror image back up and able to hit. It's 20 seconds for the drink for the Barmaid to activate. So if the Bloody Queen mirrors and hits you within, like, maybe 5 or 6 seconds of the mirror, that's another 7 seconds before. So say she hits you like in 6. On average, Bloody Queen hits you about 6-7 seconds. So let's say 7 seconds. Bloody Queen hits you 7 seconds into her mirror. Okay, so then that's 6-second cooldown, and then 15-second cooldown on the mirror, because it's 6 seconds till the mirror runs out, and then another 15 before she can use her mirror again. If you do that math, that's 6 seconds plus 15 is 21. And there you go. You got your thing, your damage healed off, and you're in a really good spot. So that is why Barmaid's not bad. She can stream much against Bloody Queen, and that's that. Moving on to the next survivor in A- tier, this is Cowboy. Cowboy used to be a very good harasser. He isn't anymore. He's actually a very weak harasser. He's a decent kiter. in that you can, lasso the hunter, get a speed boost. If a Bloody Queen sandwiches you or traps you in between her mirror image and her main body, you can simply just lasso over her, get a speed boost, and maybe transition to a pallet or a window, and kite out that mirror image. But unfortunately, the devs have been nerfing Cowboy. They nerfed that speed boost. They've just been messing with them so much. It is unfortunate. I do think removing that instant lasso is probably a good thing, where you can just lasso as soon as the hunter picks up the survivor. But because there's no way for the hunter to play around that. But yeah, now Cowboy simply just gets countered by everything. You just drop the survivor. Like, there's no way. It's so easy for the hunter to play around. And on top of that, his kiting has been getting nerfed constantly by the devs as well. So he's simply just an A- tier survivor. The next survivor in A- tier, I'm going to go through this kind of quickly because we're running out of time here, is Enchantress. I've never thought Enchantress was a good survivor. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've always thought Enchantress was pretty bad. She has nothing to work with early game if she gets teleported on by a Wu Chang. And her stuns just really don't do anything. The 1-stack stuns do almost nothing. The 3-stack isn't bad, but it's not even as strong as a flare gun from a coordinator. So Enchantress can harass in the late game, but there's just way better. Even Cowboy's a better harasser. Even if Prospector's a better harasser, I'd rather just play Prospector than have an Enchantress on the team. So that is what makes Enchantress an A-. She's not a bad container. She's annoying to deal with, but overall, in my opinion, she's an A- tier survivor. And it's just simple as that. The next survivor in A- tier is Acrobat. Acrobat is actually very strong on certain maps, a very good containment type character. But the problem is a lot of hunters will just leave him if he's too overpowered on that particular map. If you look at something like Moonlit River Park, he's so strong. He's S tier on that map because you can just go into the 4th stop area and simply just vault yourself off of the 4th stop platform, and the hunter has to go all the way around and catch up to you, and waste a whole lot of time and blah 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 blah. But if it's a Bloody Queen or a Wu Chang or whatever, they'll just teleport away. They'll just transition out of it. They're like, screw this, I'm not gonna waste time. So that is the problem with Acrobat. Is a lot of hunters will just leave him on Moonlit River Park. And on other maps, he's just not too strong. He's pretty good on maps like Lakeside, I guess. You can, you can use that slow bomb to go over a window, force the hunter to vault over it and get slowed down, whatever. Or I don't know, whatever. Sticky or nitro bomb, something like that. But overall, Acrobat's just he's very strong on Moonlit, but hunters will leave him. That's why he's not S tier or A tier, and he's just simply A- for that reason. The next survivor in A- tier is First Officer. First Officer is a viable rescuer. He does decode 20% slower, which isn't bad. And I actually we might see First Officer get played a little bit more. He's not a bad survivor. Okay, he's not a bad survivor in that he has increased chair persistence. He can be in the rocket chair for a long period of time. And also, you can use those pocket watches to, avoid the hunter early game if you know what you're doing. You know how to evasive maneuvers. Okay, it's like Star Trek or something. If you do your Star Trek skills with First Officer, you'll be fine. And you won't get hit. You have the increased chair time as well if the hunter gets you down. But unfortunately, for the most part, Gravekeeper is simply just better. You can use that shovel. He has increased saving speed, all that. So that is the downside to First Officer, is there are simply just better rescuers than him. That is why he's A-. The next survivor, or moving on to the next tier, this is A tier. I know I'm going kind of fast through this, guys, but I don't want this video to be 2 hours long and you guys not to watch it because you see it, it's 2 hours and you're like, oh my god, Eli, your video's way too long. I don't want to waste my time watching this. So that's what we're trying to do, is trying to speed this up a little bit. But yeah, the next survivor in the first survivor in A tier is Coordinator. Coordinator is pew pew. You get one shot. If you miss, you screwed up and you shouldn't be playing Coordinator. But yeah, Coordinator isn't bad. She has a flare gun that can buy a pretty good amount of time in the early game if you're containing the hunter. It actually makes her a pretty good containment type if you can actually hit the flare gun. But the problem is, in a lot of confined areas, the hunter can simply walk behind an object and dodge the flare gun. It also gets countered by excitement. But the Coordinator can waste time in the late game. She can, in theory, go for a second rescue if necessary, if she gets hit on the first one. The biggest downside I have to it is that Coordinators don't use their flare guns when they should be using their flare guns. You know, you see a lot of coordinators go for early rescues, or rescues in the early game. They don't use their flare gun, and they give you no opportunity for the survivor to rebound kite. Maybe you don't want to use it so early in the game, but sometimes you should be using it. And coordinators, I've seen a lot of coordinators not be able to distinguish between whether or not, you know, you should be using your flare gun and when not to. I'll probably make a guide about that at some point. But yeah. A coordinator is very good in that she can beat very strong camping hunters, just simply using that flare gun. You look at something like a Bonbon, even mercenaries can struggle to rescue against a Bonbon, and the coordinator can simply just go shoot him and get a free save. So that is why coordinator is an A-tier survivor. The next survivor in A-tier is another decoder. This is Prisoner. Prisoner is, you actually see quite a bit of Prisoner get played when Mechanic is banned. Because Prisoner isn't a bad decoder. I mean, he's strong, a lot stronger than Mind's Eye, a lot stronger than Lawyer, a lot stronger than Explorer. And you can see that he's in A tier. So you see a lot of you know, decoding base characters be bad at containing the hunter. You look at Mind's Eye, look at Mechanic, not very good kiters. But Prisoner is actually a very strong kiter in that he has regular vaulting speed. He also has a shock that can stun the hunter to buy him extra time as well. So that's a very strong ability to, you know, to go off of. He can get a shock a second time if you kite around the shock area. The hunter can get stunned from that as well. So, you know, the Prisoner can actually waste a pretty good time containing. Now, he's not, you know, in any means a containment type character. However, he can waste a lot more time, you know, containing the hunter than any other, you know, decoding type character for that matter. Additionally, Prisoner's Cypher Rush isn't bad. You can help the first rescuer, like the Mercenary, finish their Cypher machine. You can work on multiple Cyphers at one time. Mechanics Cypher Rush is just better because you have increased decoding speed, and you can do 2 at a time with, you know, max amount of decoding speed. Essentially, with Prisoner, you know, you transmit some of your data, which means you decode that particular Cypher you're on slower. It's a whole lot of blah, 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 blah. I know you guys probably aren't listening, but, you know, you get what I'm saying. But again, Prisoner is a good container. And he's got very strong Cypher Rush as well, and that's what makes him an A-tier survivor. The next survivor in A-tier, I'm going to get some water in a second. I'm losing my breath here. The next survivor in A-tier is Perfumer. Perfumer, now it's kind of a debate whether you want to put Perfumer or Prospector higher. I actually think Prospector is a little bit better, and I'll go over that in a second. But Perfumer, the issue that I have with Perfumer is she doesn't do anything productive other than contain the hunter. She can rescue as well. Which isn't bad, but for the most part, Perfumer, the issue that I have is even with her ability, it feeds the hunter presence. Now, this isn't particularly bad if it gets, you know, something like a Dream Witch or something like a Bloody Queen. However, if it's something like a Wu Chang and you're just feeding the hunter free presence to get their bell online, it's kind of just like you're not really doing a whole lot, and it's just kind of giving the Wu Chang what he wants, essentially. So even if you perfume a hit from a Wu Chang, it's not a big deal, because they'll still have their bell ability on shortly after, because you're feeding the hunter free presence. And a lot of Wu Changs, when they see a Perfumer, they'll just straight up tunnel them, even if there's a Mechanic on the team, because they'll know that they can get free presence, you know, off of something like the Mechanic. They have 2 options. They can either bait out the perfume, you know, or they can just take the free presence. Perfumer isn't a bad rescuer, though. She can, you know, take a hit, perfume back, and then save, or, you know, save without getting hit, essentially, if she perfumes properly. A lot of hunters will just wait out the perfume. But for the most part, you know, Perfumer is a decent rescuer as well. And that is why she's an A-tier survivor. You do see some Perfumers with broken windows, but a lot of good Perfumers will carry Tide Turner as well because, like I said, they can rescue. The next survivor in A-tier is Prospector. The reason why... Oh my god, we're running out of time. This is becoming a long video. Oh well. The next survivor is Prospector, and the reason why Prospector is pretty good is because he can actually do 2 things. He can, you know, buy time in the late game by harassing the hunter with those magnets, forcing the hunter to drop the survivor. You'll never really stun the hunter into dropping the survivor, so the survivor can get away. It's not like a forward or anything, or like a Wildling. But it will buy extra time. It'll force the hunter to drop the survivor, even if they don't drop the survivor. The stun's not going to be long enough where they can just, you know, the survivor can get away. They'll be able to hit them down pretty quickly after that. But the Prospector can waste time in the late game if you're trying to, for example, prime a Cypher machine. On top of that, he's also a decent containment type hunter or survivor against hunters with small hitboxes like Violinist, like Blackform Wu Chang, even something like Bonbon. You can waste a lot of the hunter's time using those magnets to push them away. You can also do fun tricks on certain maps, like on the ramp on Lakeside Village. You can push the hunter off the ramp. You can push the hunter off of the 2-story in Leo's memory. There's so many fun tricks you can do with Prospector as well. And again, he can buy time for you in the late game. So Prospector is a containment type character that also brings something to the table that can support the team. And that is why I think Prospector is stronger than Perfumer and is an A-tier survivor. The next survivor in A-tier is Painter. Now, when Painter first came out, and Painter is getting that, that nerf where, he only has the 2 paintings and there's a few other things going on. I'm not paying attention, but because I'm clueless, you guys know me, I don't pay attention to anything for the most part, which I probably should, but, anyways, Painter's still A-tier. The paintings are just so powerful. The fact that the hunter could literally be on you, you just drop a painting and you can just literally get like a free 3 to 5 second transition time to transition to a new area. It's just so overpowered. And when Painter first came out, he was S tier, but unfortunately with his nerf, he is now A tier. He can still buy a lot of time. In that, the hunter's chasing you, you get one of those paintings online, drop a painting, transition to a new area, prevent yourself from getting hit. It's just like a better perfume, a better magnet. It's like a flare gun. It's literally like a coordinator flare gun. That's how strong it is, and you get multiple of them. And that is why Painter is A tier. There's not much to say on that. Also, he has that chair time where he's put on the rocket chair. There's no halfway line for him. All right, so if you put him on the rocket chair, you could say him after half, and he still gets a second chair, which is very strong. So he has that going for him as well, and that's what makes him a high A-tier survivor. The next survivor in A-tier is Gravekeeper. Gravekeeper's always been very good. He's not quite S-tier because he never gets banned, but he is very strong. The fact that Gravekeeper can literally take 4 hits, plus an owl if you have a Seer, you can take 5 hits, is very, very powerful. Also, he has increased speed while in that shovel, while underground, which is very good. He has increased rescue time when he pops up from a shovel, which is very good. You can literally, against hunters with slow hits, something like a white form Wu Chang, you can literally just pop up and save, even if you're one shot, and you'll get the rescue off. That's how good Gravekeeper is. Against some hunters, you can just literally just jump up and save in an insta rescue against hunters with slow hits. So that just is so powerful. That ability to rescue that fast. Again, on top of that, he can take 4 hits with those shovels. He gets the increased speed. You just drop a bunch of pallets near you and shovel. He can also instant save off a Bloody Queen as well because he has that slow hit. It's just so strong for the Gravekeeper. There's not much to say about that. He's just one of the strongest rescuers in the game, and that's why he is the highest survivor in A tier. Moving on to the last tier, this is S tier. There are 5 survivors currently in S tier, and the first one is Forward. Now, Forward, it is kind of a debate whether or not to put Forward on S or like top of A tier. But I think Forward definitely deserves S tier. The only downside to Forward is his very slow decoding. He decodes 30% slower than an average survivor. However, Forward's harassing is the strongest out of any harasser in the entire game. The fact that the Forward can literally just, the hunter picks up the survivor, the Forward just stuns. You can stun him out of the animation. So literally you don't have the drop animation. The survivor can just take off running. Kind of like how Wildling does it. Or you can just buy a whole bunch of time as a Forward. You can even save a one-shot if you go for a long stun. You can stun, off a bonbon. You can go for an insta-save with a long stun, which isn't a bad play against hunters with good camp. You can do it while you're one-shot. And you can literally just harass so much time. On top of that, if you vault a pallet and get that knee-jerk reflex speed boost and then go into a football dash, you get increased speed and longer stun time. It's just so broken. It's so hard to deal with as a hunter. Some hunters will if they see a Forward on the team and no other stunners, they'll just bring excitement for the Forward. Like, that's how good Forward is. That's why he's simply an S-tier survivor. The next survivor in S tier is Priestess, aka Roach. A lot of you hunter mains out there watching this are probably like, I hate this survivor. Don't talk good about her. She should be nerfed. She should be F tier. She should be not even a survivor. But she is. That is why she is S tier. She is just that broken of a survivor. You can literally put, you can just go portal. The hunter's running up to you. Oh yeah, let me just put a portal through this building, and I'm gone. The hunter would normally hit you, and you're just gone. You can literally break the hunter's ankles. You can go through the portal and then juke back through it, and the hunter goes through it, and then you just lose them, and you're gone. On Ever Sleeping Town, she is so broken. The buildings are super thick, so you can portal long distances. It is just so hard as a hunter to deal with a Priestess. On top of that, if she sets up the ultra long portal, the survivor goes through it early game, and if the hunter's not a Wu Chang or a hunter that runs teleport, that survivor is simply just gone, and you have to go. You basically have to go select a new target, and the survivors at that point have probably just won the match. Like that long portal in the early game, getting the survivor through that, or getting a survivor through that after going in for a save with Tide Turner. The fact that you can go through after you've been hit with Tide Turner is broken. You just go through that, and you're not catching them. They're gone, and you pretty much just lost the match as the hunter. So Priestess literally just swings matches with that ultra long portal. I think a lot of people kind of take that for granted. They're kind of just like, oh, you know, Priestess just spams portals, and I can never catch her, blah, blah, blah. But they also don't take into account that ultra long portal, which is just so powerful. And that is actually what I think the strongest thing about Priestess is that you can kind of set that up. And on big maps, you can portal from, like, big boat all the way to little boat, and the hunter just loses because they can't catch up to the survivor. So that is just very strong for Priestess. On top of that, she literally heals faster and gets healed faster. So it's just so hard for... her only downside is, I think, 10% vaulting speed decrease and 10% decoding decrease, which really doesn't do a whole lot anyway. But she just has so much going for her. She's a broken survivor. There's almost pretty much no reason to not have a Priestess on your team composition. And that is why Priestess is an S tier survivor. The next survivor in S tier is Mechanic. Mechanic is the best decoder in the game. And the reason for this is that Mechanic can literally decode 2 ciphers at one time. If a survivor doesn't get it early game, or you have a Seer that owls the first hit, the Mechanic decodes almost as fast as a Mind's Eye, 5% less than a Mind's Eye, but still 25% increase. On top of that, her doll has a 25% increase. She can literally go for a rescue. While decoding, that's why a lot of mechs bring Tide Turner. She can literally decode while kiting. She can literally decode while on the rocket chair. If you put your bot out at the beginning of a game and you die super fast as a mechanic, it's not a big deal, because if you have your bot in play, it's going to do an entire cipher and a half for free, or open the exit gate for free, or whatever. And it's just so broken. Mech may not be a good, you know, kiter or container, but again, if the hunter wants to finds the bot first, a lot of hunters will have to waste time on the bot, and you literally just, you know, get a free half of a survivor chased, and that's free decoding for the rest of the team. On top of that, you can drop the bot a second time. If the bot goes down in the early game, the hunter will kill you, put you on a chair, and the bot will still be able to do an entire cipher machine. So that is why, and it literally makes it as a mechanic, so your team needs only 4 ciphers to win the game. You just have to decode 4 ciphers. It's as simple as that, instead of 5. Like that's broken. Like the difference between having to decode 4, and you see a lot of hunters, they stop banning Seer, they stop banning Mercenary, and they just ban Mechanic, because they don't want to have a game where it essentially says decode 4 ciphers to win. You know, like that's literally what Mechanic does in a lot of instances, and it makes it so hard on the hunters. That cipher rush is absolutely broken. Moving on to the next survivor in S tier, there are 2 left. The next one is Seer. This is my main. I love Seer. Seer is so good. Seer is absolutely broken. I mean, you can literally see, as a Seer, you can see where the hunter is at the start of the match. You can tell your teammates what the hunter is, where they're going, where to rotate to avoid the hunter. It's just so strong. On top of that, Seer makes it so every survivor on your team in the early game, or the opening kiter, has to take 3 hits. You just give them simply just give them an extra hit. And this is also strong if you're playing, you know, if you have like a Perfumer or a Barmaid, because Perfumer uses a perfume, the hunter baits it out and then waits out the perfume. You give them an owl so their perfume can recharge and they can get their perfume back. And the hunter just baited out, you know, just wasted their time baiting out the perfume. You know, same for Barmaid. If Barmaid gets hit, you give her owl, she uses her drink, and she simply gets the drink off for free. Or Doctor heals herself, whatever it happens to be, right? Like the owl is just so good, so strong, making the survivor take an extra hit. On top of that, if the Seer kites first, if he kites while looking behind him, he can build up for a second owl. That is key as a Seer, getting a second owl, but a lot of Seers can do that. And you can take multiple hits as a Seer, and it actually makes Seer a pretty good containment type for that particular reason. And on top of that, Seer has very good vision. You know, he can see the hunter throughout parts of the map that other times survivors wouldn't be able to see. You can see the hunter longer. The beginning of the match, all that stuff. I know I'm talking, just rambling here, but Seer is such a strong survivor for vision and for support. And that's why Seer is an S tier survivor. The best survivor in the game, in my opinion, and the last survivor in S tier. I know it's a long video, guys. I'm sorry for this. But we're finally done after this. That is Mercenary. There is never, in any world besides Mercenary getting banned, to not have a Mercenary on your team. Mercenary is the best rescuer in the entire game, and it's just the best survivor in the entire game. Mercenary's decoding maybe 25% decrease, but he can literally almost never get stuffed unless it's like a bonbon. Mercenary can take 3 hits before going down. Essentially, when you're going for a rescue, you can literally go for a save across a large map by using those elbow pads to get across the map. The Mercenary should never get hit in the early game because you can kind of just elbow pad away. Mercenary is just so strong. Such a powerful rescuer. It's not even like his decoding is so bad like forwards or wildlings. 25% isn't too bad. It's workable. And it just makes Mercenary so good that, you know, you have to hit the Mercenary 3 times to get him down. So even if you're a good campy hunter, like a violinist that strings the Mercenary, hits him a second time, the Mercenary is still going to get off the rescue. The Mercenary will be double hit, and that's unfortunate, but he's still getting off the rescue because Mercenary is just that good. On top of that, you know, if you need to rush to get a save because it's against a hunter with, like, very good camp and you want to go early, like an Anne, for example, use those elbow pads to get there. You know, he used to have 5 and he was nerfed at some point, but 4 is still so strong. And based off of Mercenary's rescuing capability, the fact that he can take extra hits, he doesn't even die if he gets hit with detention, if he has full health. It is just so strong for Mercenary, and that is why Mercenary... he can get Terror Shock. He can get Terror Shock going in for a rescue, and you'll still be able to get off the save. Not that you want to, and you really don't want to get double hit if you're the Merc. You want to just take 1 hit and be gone. But Mercenary is just so strong, and that is why he's S-tier survivor and the best in the game. Finally, guys, that will wrap it up for the video. I know it was a long one. If you guys haven't already done so, as always, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I really, really appreciate all your guys' support. It really means a lot. Don't forget to check out the 2 Discord links I put in the video description below. One of them is mine, another one is a friend's. Very good Discords that I love being a part of, so don't forget to check that out as well. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will have a Hunter Tier List Season 13 coming out soon, so don't forget to watch out for that. But yeah, that's it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.